It's normal for landscape companies to have numerous people involved. The issue that I'm seeing is that those people, and sometimes there's numerous people, aren't all on the same page. The important thing is to communicate with your customer the timeline. We've got to have a next step appointment with that client. Your chance of closing the sale is going to go way up. When you get a lead, from the time it comes through your website, and when do you talk to them? How long does it take to get the client an estimate? The client has done an enormous amount of research online, vetting you and your competitors before they make the decision to fill out the form on that website or pick up the phone and call you. It's kind of like the office manager is the opening act for the next band, which is this person. And if that person's setting up somebody else, we want to be introducing them. So that way we're transitioning and building a relationship with the company through the various people involved. We're in a tough market for closing new tree and landscape sales in this market with so much inflation going on. So today I want to share with you 5 sales management tips to close more sales now without necessarily increasing your investment in marketing. And this is based on some sales consulting I've done recently with numerous clients. And my first tip is to bring your team together. I've met with numerous sales teams where I get the office manager answering the phone, the person who's doing maybe an initial phone call or an initial on-site visit, the landscape designer. It's normal for landscape companies to have numerous people involved in selling and designing a project for a client, or if you run a tree care company, to have somebody answering the phone and somebody else going out and doing the estimate. But the issue that I'm seeing is that those people, and sometimes there's numerous people, aren't all on the same page. Often they don't really know the next step in the sales process. They're not sure what the other person's doing or what an acceptable time frame is. And this can create miscommunication between employees and then also with customers. And when there's one thing communicated from the person who answers the phone, like, oh yeah, we'll be coming out within the next couple days to do your estimate, when it could be, I'm gonna get to this, weeks for some people, that creates a lack of trust with that potential customer and leads to them wanting to maybe get a quote from landscape or tree company B and C. Whereas if all the people, the person answering the phone, the person doing the estimate, the person sending the email, if everyone's on the same page about what happens next, what are the rough price ranges, and what are the actual timelines, now we're doing what we said we were going to do. So we want to have our marketing, sales, and operations aligned around doing what we say we're going to do. But if people don't understand what we do here and what the other person does, it creates a lot of problems. An easy way to do this is bring all of these people together in a meeting, get around a big table, get a big ass whiteboard or a giant piece of paper and literally draw out or put on, sticky notes. I've done this with sticky notes on a whiteboard with everyone. Okay, from the time that somebody fills out the form, who is calling them and when and what time frame? And is that measured? Are you measuring how long it's taking? Because if you're taking days to get back and the customer hasn't heard from you, they're gonna contact another company and they're not gonna sit around and wait days to hear back from you. So getting clear on what is an acceptable time frame, what is an ideal time frame for responding to new leads, and then who's calling them, and all of those different things, outlining that and putting names on it so everyone knows who on the team is handling what. And that brings me to my second tip, which is to communicate a timeline for next steps. I was working with a tree company and I was looking at their leads. I was looking one by one. We import all of their leads into a spreadsheet. And I was like, hey, tell me about this lead. Tell me about this lead. And how long are you taking to go and do an estimate? And it turns out they're so understaffed right now, and this is normal. I don't want to make light of the situation, but rather just to acknowledge that business is hard, and you have people on vacation or people who are sick or you're understaffed or whatever's going on. The important thing is to communicate with your customer the timeline. So when the phone rings and the office manager is answering, what is he or she telling the potential customer about the timeline for next steps? Because in this case with this tree company, it was up to 14 days. And I can tell you that I actually contacted a tree company, and I've hired them for numerous projects. They happen to be one of my clients, and that's cool. I understand there are certain times of the year where you are booked out pretty far, and they did a good job of communicating that to me, sending me an email, letting me know, reminding me when they were coming. I'm not shopping around. I'm going to hire my client because I have that trust with them. But if I were a new customer looking for tree removal or for tree care, and I didn't hear from you after that initial call and a week had gone by, I would probably call another tree company. So communicate the timeline for next steps. And back to my first point, make sure everyone on the team, the person answering the phone, the person sending the email, is aware of that timeline for next steps. My third tip is to add a next steps and revisions meeting to your sales process. Now, this may not make sense if you're doing lawn care or lawn maintenance or tree care necessarily, but if you're in a business model that has a design component where you're meeting with clients, you're walking their property, you're listening to their dreams and ideas, and then you're coming to them with a design, first, ideally you're presenting that design to them either in person or over Zoom, and naturally they're gonna wanna think about it. They're gonna wanna be like, wow, I've never imagined my yard looking like this, and I wanna walk through it and think about it. We've gotta have a next step appointment with that client, because what can happen is if they walk the property, they forget about it, life happens, their kid gets sick. I had to go to a funeral recently. That derailed a lot of decisions in my life, right? So things get off track. Whereas if you get an appointment with the client to hear their feedback and to edit the design with them, and maybe you need to remove things and let them know, hey, we can remove these things to reduce the budget. Or if you want to add those things, it'll increase the budget, and gauge that in the meeting. Your chance of closing the sale is going to go way up. So add a next steps and revisions conversation as an appointment. Put it in the calendar, meaning at the end of that design sales presentation, get the next appointment in the calendar. Send the client a calendar invite so they've got it on their calendar, they've got an email, they know when it is, and your sales will massively increase. My next sales management tip is to measure your speed from lead to estimate. So when you get a lead, from the time it comes through your website, and when do you talk to them? How long does it take to get the client an estimate? And again, is the client aware of that? And could this be faster? Can you be faster? Because a lot of times, let's say it's an emergency tree removal. Something fell in my yard. I'm gonna need to get that taken care of right away. Or if I'm finally ready to invest in landscape design, or if I need lawn care, or whatever it is, or I need sprinkler repair, there's urgency around it. The client has done an enormous amount of research online, vetting you and your competitors before they make the decision to fill out the form on that website or pick up the phone and call you. And so at that point, we need to be fast. And this is something that, again, if you measure how long does it take, and maybe bonus your team on the speed. This is a behavior that you can incentivize if it's faster. As a story, one time I was out hunting with a client. We got up to a mountain peak, and he's like, hey, I just got 3 new leads through my website. I'm like, right on, because I built the website, we've been working together. And then I was like, well, we're hunting for the next few days. Who's gonna get back to them and when? And he's like, well, I guess I'll have to get back to him when I get back. And that could be several days, or if we got an elk, it could be longer depending on whatever work we need to do. So this, again, where if you shave off that initial phone call, getting back to the lead, and maybe you pay people. I don't know the compensation, how it works with your team, but I can tell you that if I ran a tree or landscape company, I would pay more to my team to incentivize the speed. So getting back to them quickly increases the chance of the whole company closing that sale. And it could still be like, hey, thanks. The next step is an on-site consultation with your property. Our next opening is next Thursday. Okay, great. Now it's in the calendar. You get it in the calendar. A lot of times, once that customer has that appointment in the calendar with whoever their service provider might be, they give up the search. But if they're in that gray area of like, I don't know when they're going to get back to me or if they're going to get back to me, they're going to keep searching and contacting competitors. My fifth tip is to send calendar invitations and follow-up emails to each and every customer. So after they call in or after you call them after getting a lead through your website contact form and you schedule whatever next step is happening, whether it's a phone call with a designer on your team or whether it's an on-site consultation, get the email address of that customer and send them a calendar invite. And the way that you title this calendar invite is really important. I would put their last name, like the Jostes family and Bob's Landscape Company design meeting in the calendar, if that's the title of the meeting. So you can title and brand these milestones. Is it an on-site consultation? Is it a design meeting? What are you calling it? Putting your brand name in the calendar invite along with the family's name is gonna show up on their calendar. So if it's a week or two from now, they're like, oh yeah, I'm meeting with Bob's Landscape Design. And in the description of that calendar invite, you can have links to things like check out our portfolio, check out our reviews, read more about our process. So that way, before that meeting, you're giving the client things for your brand, for your company to look at and review so they actually remember that they're meeting with your company. Because remember, they might have contacted numerous landscape companies. Some of them, frankly, aren't even going to reply at all. And now you're the one who's good enough to have gotten the appointment and we want to seal the deal. And that's where follow-up emails are very important, especially if you have an office manager or somebody answering the phone or responding to these leads from the website and they're setting an appointment for someone else on the team. Send an email introduction. The subject line might read something like Jostes family plus Bob's Landscape Design ... introducing Barry. Hey Jack, I'm introducing you to Barry. He's our senior landscape designer that'll be running your landscape design meeting. Here's the date, time, here's the address, here's Bob's phone number, and or was it Bob? I can't remember the name of the designer. See, anyways, we got to put it in there so that way the client knows who they're meeting with and we're positioning that next person as like a rock star. It's kind of like the office manager is the opening act for the next band, which is this person. And if that person's setting up somebody else, we want to be introducing them. So that way we're transitioning and building a relationship with the company through the various people involved. And then in that email, you can also ideally have what we call a milestone video. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes. We did a whole episode on this, but essentially a milestone video in that email can help prepare them for this meeting. Hey, we're going to walk through your garden. We're going to hear your ideas. We're going to talk with you about your budget range. And we invite you to check out the pricing guide on our website so you have an initial idea of how much things cost. And the next step after that meeting will be a design presentation meeting where we'll meet over Zoom and show you your design. In the meantime, check out our reviews at bobsgardendesign.com/reviews, whatever. So we're helping them, again, we're telling them what we're gonna do and we're educating them because a lot of people have not bought landscape or tree services before. And by helping them understand how it works, how do they arrive at pricing for this and what are the ranges is going to build trust along the way so they finally choose you. My name is Jack Jostes, and if you enjoyed these 5 sales management tips, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click for the next video for additional sales, marketing, and leadership inspiration to grow your snow and landscape company.